A child screamed. Not a playful scream, not the kind parents ignore for a second longer than they should. This one cut through the morning air of the park like a blade, sharp enough to make heads turn, sharp enough to freeze breath. Help! The sound came from the playground near the old oak trees. Parents who had been scrolling on their phones looked up at the same time. A woman dropped her coffee. A man stood so fast his chair tipped over. For a split second, no one moved because panic always steals a moment before action. Then chaos broke loose. A little boy had slipped beneath the climbing frame. His leg twisted at an unnatural angle, his face white with shock before the pain even reached him. Children backed away, confused, frightened, some starting to cry just because others were. And in that moment, before security arrived, before parents decided what to do, before anyone even called 911, the man who cleaned the playground was already kneeling beside the boy. Everyone in the park knew him. Or at least, they thought they did. He was there every morning before sunrise, pushing a battered cart with a broom tied to one side and a trash picker hooked to the other. He wore the same faded jacket no matter the weather. His shoes were always clean but old, the kind that had been repaired more than replaced. He never spoke unless spoken to, never looked up unless necessary. 2. Most people, he was just part of the background. Like the trees, like the benches, like the trash cans he emptied before anyone noticed they were full. Some parents nodded at him politely. Others ignored him completely. A few treated him like he wasn't supposed to be seen at all. And now he was the only one not frozen. "Easy, buddy," he said calmly, his voice low, steady, like nothing in the world was out of control. "Don't move. I've got you." A mother rushed forward. "Don't touch him." "Are you trained for this?" The man didn't look up. His hands were already supporting the boy's neck, checking, breathing, checking consciousness with the speed of someone who had done this more times than anyone present could imagine. "He's breathing," the man said. "Legs injured, possibly fractured. No spinal signs, but we keep him still." People stared. A father whispered, "How does he know that?" Someone else muttered, "Is he even allowed to?" For the man was already tearing a strip from his jacket lining, improvising a soft brace, speaking gently to the boy the entire time. "What's your name, Ethan," the boy subbed. "Okay, Ethan, I'm right here. You're safe." Safe. That word landed heavier than anyone expected. By the time the ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, the boy's crying had slowed. His breathing was steady. His panic had softened into trust. When paramedics arrived, they paused just for a second because they recognized the posture, the control, the way the man's hands were placed. One of them asked quietly, "Who stabilized him?" The man stood back, wiping his hands on a cloth. "I did." The paramedic looked at him more closely now. Really looked. "Where'd you learn to do that?" he asked. The man smiled, faint and tired. "A long time ago." Loaded Ethan carefully into the ambulance. His mother followed, tears streaming, gratitude fighting with shock on her face. Before the doors closed, she looked back at the man. "Thank you," she said. "I don't even know your name." The man nodded. "That's okay." The ambulance drove away. Thorg slowly returned to its rhythm, but something had shifted. People whispered. Parents looked at the man differently now, some with curiosity, some with guilt. A woman approached him hesitantly. "You handled that like a professional." He shrugged lightly. "Someone had to." "But you work here, right?" "Cleaning." He picked up his broom. "That's what I do now." Now, that word lingered. Later that day, the truth would spread through the park like a quiet shockwave. But to understand it, you had to go back years earlier, long before the broom, before the silence, before the way people looked past him. He used to run toward danger while others ran away. Back then, he wore a uniform that made strangers feel safer just by seeing it. Back then, people said his name with respect. But then, he was a firefighter. 20 years of service. Hundreds of calls. Fears, crashes, rescues that stayed with him long after the smoke cleared. He had carried children out of burning buildings. He had pulled strangers from wreckage using hands that shook only afterward. He had watched lives end and done everything in his power to prevent it. Until the night, everything changed. The call came in just after midnight. Apartment fire. 3rd floor. Children possibly trapped. He didn't hesitate. He never did. Sloten's inside. The heat was brutal. Visibility near zero. He found the children, 2 of them, huddled in a corner, coughing, terrified. He got them out, handed them to another firefighter, turned back in. There was one more voice. The ceiling collapsed before anyone could warn him. They pulled him out alive. Barely. His body healed. His lungs recovered enough. But his mind stayed inside that burning building. The nightmares started. Then the panic attacks. Then the silence. Doxies called it PTSD. Paperwork reduced 20 years of courage to a diagnosis. He retired quietly. No ceremony. No speeches, just a box with his belongings and a handshake that lasted a second too long. At home, the walls felt too close. The quiet too loud. He stopped sleeping. Stopped answering calls. Stopped being the man everyone expected him to be. One morning, desperate for air, he walked to the city park. The smell of grass. The sound of children laughing. The rhythm of footsteps on paths. It calmed him. He came back the next day. And the next. Eventually, he asked the city if they needed help maintaining the playground. Nothing official. Just something to do with his hands. Something useful. They said yes. Too. And so he became the man who cleaned the playground. For him, it wasn't a job. It was therapy. Sweeping broken glass before kids could step on it. Tightening loose bolts on swings. Wiping down slides. Making the place safer in small, invisible ways. Most people never noticed. Some noticed enough to judge. Why is he always here? A parent once whispered. Probably caught at community service, another replied. He heard it all. He never corrected them. Because some days, being invisible was easier. Until the day Ethan fell. After that, things changed. Parents started greeting him. Kids waved. Someone left a coffee on the bench next to his cart with a note that said, "Thank you." One afternoon, a man in a suit approached him. "I heard what you did. You used to be a firefighter, right?" The man paused. "Who told you that?" The man smiled. "People talk." "Yes," he said finally. "Was." "Why are you here then?" the man asked, confused. Not unkind. Just genuinely confused. He looked around the playground. At the swings moving gently in the breeze. At the chalk drawings on the pavement. "Because this place doesn't ask me to be who I was," he said. "Just who I am." The story reached Ethan's school. Then the local news. A small article. No name at first. Just a headline about a quiet hero. When a reporter finally tracked him down, he declined the interview. She asked. He smiled. Because the kids don't need a headline. They just need a safe place to play. The park installed a small plaque near the playground a month later. It didn't mention fires. Or medals. or bravery. It simply read, "This playground is cared for by someone who believes safety is an act of love." He stood in front of it one morning, broom in hand. Re-watching children laugh, without knowing how close danger sometimes came on, how quietly it was pushed away. For the first time in years, his chest felt light. Not because the past was gone, but because it finally had a place to rest.